I wanted to be on someone's file or like a call from beginning to end and see what their design process was going to be like, right? And so once I had those things, sorted, I think I was quite confident in my design career.
Did you have any people that you looked up to?
If you always feel like you've not reached, or you always feel like you don't know anything, or there's a lot for you in there, then you're definitely on the right path.
I would want to find out what is UI UX essentially about. Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Brand Out Podcast, where we have conversations that drive collective growth. For today's discussion, I have with me a very talented lady, and by the end of the conversation, you would know what I mean by a very talented person. And she's in the name of Abia, a UI UX designer with extensive research in the space. And interestingly, it's a heavily male-dominated space. To have a woman making strides in it, it's worth discussing what she's about, how she came to the sport, and everything in between. So join me as I talk with Abia. How are you doing?
I'm good.
How have you been? I'm good as well, All right. So as part of my research for today's conversation, I looked up your LinkedIn profile, and it pretty much gives a sense of where you're coming from in terms of work and the experiences you've gathered. But interestingly, you studied psychology in school.
Yeah.
So how were you able to move from psychology to the UI UX space?
I think even before I went to the uni to get my bachelor's done, I was interested in tech in a way. Like I attended some classes with like IPMC and things like that, but I didn't really know what I was doing at the point. So Ghanaian universities, the way they are, what you give you, you don't get what you want to do, but then you get what the university wants to give you. Except maybe you're probably like in science or something, you're going to do medical science or like engineering or something. So I actually applied for computer science, math, and economics.
Whoa.
But I didn't get that. So I was given psychology, I think information studies and dance.
Okay.
So I danced for 1 year.
You danced for 1 year. Interested.
And then I majored in like a combined major in psychology and information studies. Actually thought I would be like a clinical psychologist or something, but fast forward to national service, I had my service period in Access Bank.
Okay.
And I didn't really like the way, it was monotonous. Like in the marketing department, you literally have to go into the markets to go and find clients, that kind of account activation style. I didn't like it, so I dropped out. And
you dropped out of the national service?
After national service. So there's something Access Bank does. They take you to Nigeria after national service for like 4 to 5 months. Okay. And then you come back and then you become a permanent staff. So okay. I didn't go for that program. And I was lying to myself, I'll apply for school and I'll get a scholarship and then I'll leave. And that was when life hits me. And it wasn't all smooth. So during those times, I think after national service in September to December, a friend introduced me to a Figma Bootcamp. That was in 2018. So that was my first interaction with the tech industry. I didn't actually know that anything like that existed, free training programs, places where you can just go and learn. So I took advantage of it. I liked it. And then in December, I attended a Python bootcamp.
Okay. So September, Figma Bootcamp, yeah. December, Python bootcamp.
Yeah. So the Python bootcamp was just 3 days, but the Figma one was a month. So I was just trying my hands in different things. I realized that this is something I think I would want to continue. So the following year, Ghana Tech Lab opened their first base program. So I signed up for the mobile app development program. So I actually started my tech career more of a front-end developer. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did front end in 2019. I learned how to develop in React Native, and then we went on to create a startup. That's a long story.
Yeah, we'll get to the details of every single bit. Yeah.
Fast forward, after the startup, I went back into a mainstream job And then I think after a year, I landed my first UX design role.
I feel multi-million.
No, it wasn't multi-million, but it was okay.
All right. So taking it back to your days in school, where at some point you thought you were going to be a clinical psychologist, was there anything interesting you liked about the study of psychology?
I actually didn't like psychology before I started the course.
You started the course with the
I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay.
Right? I didn't understand what was going to come out of it. But then I think along the way, I liked experimental psychology.
Okay.
I liked there was one other course by that same lecture, but I just felt okay, maybe it was because of that particular lecture and the way she delivered the course. And I liked abnormal psychology until the point where I think my dad passed at the point. So school was just from that point onwards, nothing. I think the only part that stood out to me was information studies. It was more like study of data, library, and how to like arrange data and all of those things. But it just had a few parts where we were learning, like we weren't really learning program, it was just like how to use Microsoft and Excel, this.
The whole office suite.
Yeah. That was the only part that stood out.
Interesting. So that moving to national service after national service through to Ghana Tech Lab, I think one thing stood out, which was the boot camp that you attended. Do you think it is essential for especially young people coming up in whichever practice it is? It might not necessarily be tech, but the essence of community, finding yourself among the networks that do things along your interest, or that could plug you, let me put it there. I mean, that's the common thing that puts you on in a way.
Okay, so let me start with myself.
That's
for me. Yeah. It's been instrumental in like my journey, because I don't think if I hadn't attended those boot camps, I would have been where I am today. Because even though my startup didn't end up like blowing up or being like a whole big thing, the connections I made, the people I connected with, the skills I learned, all those things have contributed to where I am currently. And I would always say that for me, my design jobs or like my design journey has never been, I've never applied for a job in design or tech and actually had it. It was only twice I had an interview with like, design agency or things like that. But in all of my jobs, like counting from day one, all of my jobs have been doing referrals for people that I met during those times, when I was going through the boot camps.
That's solid. I mean, most of the times we underplay the value of finding yourself within such networks. And I mean, our part of it, I think referrals do work a lot. Because people don't want to risk it, especially someone you don't know, putting that person on a big project or a contract. I mean, sometimes it comes with its own complexities, but if I know if I recommended someone on a project because I trust you,
right,
I believe you wouldn't recommend someone who does a subpar job.
Yeah.
So referrals, it's really a big thing. Regardless of the space that you're in, it's really a big thing that you should always consider. In the space that you're in, as you all know, it's a heavily male-dominated space. What have been some of the challenges?
For me, I don't know, every time I'm asked this question, based on my experience, I wouldn't say I've had challenges, that stem from like external factors. But challenges I have faced have to do with my surroundings and like, things that I have to control. For example, the first base program that I attended with Ghana Tech Lab, it was an all-female program.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it was gender biased, like there were more males in the class and everything was for females. I think there was another part where another hub was handling that were all males. Yeah, but the other ones were mixed. So in that sense, I didn't experience that sort of thing. In all the other jobs, I think I've come to realize that the tech industry is changing in a way that people are trying to move away from that narrative that, if you're female, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. But people are being given equal opportunities, even though there may be some iota of like bias or stereotype or something in there. But generally, from what I have experienced, I wouldn't say much of like challenges came from those aspects. But where my challenges will lie would be as a female, right? If you decide to move into tech, let's say I was transitioning from psychology into tech. I didn't tell my parents about the fact that I was dropping out on the Access Math program. They wouldn't have listened. And at that point, it wasn't as if I knew I was going to get into tech. There wasn't anything I was going to do. I was just hoping that I would get like admission to a school or something. And if I had told them that I was dropping out and they had stopped me, I would have understood because there was no plan. I didn't have any plan. But if I knew that I was moving from banking into tech, I don't really know how they would have reacted. I can't really tell because that wasn't the case. But then for me, I would say that moving into the tech industry, I think it took a long time for them to understand that this is what I'm doing. And I need this time to concentrate on this. Especially when you're in a society where, traditional female roles, you're expected to, you wake up in the morning, you do these chores, help out here, you help out here, you help out here. I realized that if I don't get myself out of that space within a certain period of time, let's say maybe 9 to 3 p.m. in every single day, I will end up doing nothing the whole day towards what I want to achieve. So it was a very difficult time handling my previous startup, especially during COVID, because you're in the house, you're not going anywhere. There are so many responsibilities that you have to, attend to as a female in a traditional home. And they always find you behind your laptop. That kind of thing.
Sure.
Why you always behind your laptop? What are you doing? And they're not seeing there's this thing about African parents. Once, money is not coming to your pocket, they're not feeling it. So I was like, you're not.
They know what you're up to.
Yeah. Once, they see that something about you has changed. Yeah, now she moves here. Like, she brings back this.
When did they see that change?
I think they didn't see that change. They didn't see that change. Actually, I quit. I quit doing all of those things. I told myself that I couldn't handle, being at home and doing this. And I also didn't have so much money to find myself going out every day. So I put everything aside and I went back to look for a job, any job I could find. So I ended up being a marketing and sales and executive in a certain company. And once I started, I told myself that I'm going to give myself 1 year. I'm going to freelance. I'm going to build my portfolio because I realized that was what I needed to get into the UX role that I wanted to be. I gave myself a year. I started in March in 2021.
Okay.
So by March 2022, I had my first UI role.
That was exactly a year.
Yeah, exactly a year. Wow. So during that year, I was freelancing. I was learning. Most of the time when I go to work and there are down times, I'll learn about UX. I'll do projects. I had some little paid gigs. And I think that was what boosted my confidence. So by the time I was interviewing for my first UI role, I had things to show. Even though they were not so solid, they also took a chance on me and gave me some time to, work on a brief or a design brief or something. And yeah, I think that was one of the trick for me.
One thing I picked up was before you moved out to pick a particular role, you decided you had to have a portfolio, something to show. I'll come back to that conversation. I would want to find out what is UI UX essentially about, because we've talked about it, assuming that everyone understands it, but then we would want to know exactly what it goes into it.
Okay. So previously, I think before, I was watching a video on IDF, Interaction Design Foundation, and they're talking about why UX is important. And in previous times, gone are the days where, we knew it was just software. Kwamina comes to me, okay, I want an application that does this, that takes me to the moon. we build and then we go.
Okay.
But forgetting that we have to consider the human being that will be, let's say, if you're building a rocket, we have to consider the human being that will be in the rocket. There are different parts of the atmosphere. When it gets in this stage, what would that human being experience? When they get to outer space, like out of our atmosphere on Earth, what would they experience? We didn't necessarily consider all of those stages while building the software. So now what UX does is that it takes into consideration all of these edge cases and builds for whoever is going to be experiencing a product or a device or an object, right, behind the scenes. And we even try to think ahead for the user in terms of what they want to achieve, why they came there, and what steps they are going to take to reach their desired goal. That's basically what UX is about in layman's terms, right? I would say the UI part is more of designing aesthetically pleasing elements that people can interact with.
So it's solely human-centered. Because you are building a software product for someone.
Yeah.
How are you able to predict how they are going to interact with the product, the software, the app, whatever it is?
So that is where research comes in, right? In order for you to build something that is meaningful to users, first of all, I think we all did research methods at some point.
Yeah, I remember. I did.
Talk about observation, talk about quantitative research and all those things. But most likely observation, I would say observation. Observing how people react in their given environments before you even introduce something to them. Now, that means that what you're introducing has to fit into their daily routine. It doesn't have to take them any extra efforts to be able to incorporate that product that you're giving them, right? So research, observing users, sometimes you don't get opportunity to, there are certain products that you can't really ascertain how the user is going to interact with before you bring it out. Sometimes you actually have to go the reverse way. No UX design processes, let's say, for every product. You may have to build what you have in mind, bring it, and let them give you feedback. In the process of building what you have in mind, you still have to consider, lay down patterns. There's something called mental modules. If I'm building anything that looks like a ride-hailing app, why would I go and reinvent the wheel? Why would I put my button at the top and then bring the map below? Why would I say that you have to call and then find your own driver before you can input on the map that this vehicle is coming to pick me? It doesn't make sense. So just follow what has been laid down. There are so many things. I mean, there's not really nothing new in the world. Most things have already existing patterns. So once you follow that and then you bring something else, it shouldn't mean something that's perfect, like an MVP should work. Once your users interact with it, they give you feedback, you build upon it.
So feedback is it? Because you are building for people and you can't assume 100% what you're putting out, they are going to like it.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to improve what you're building on is to get feedback from the people you are building for, then incorporating that feedback back into what you had already done.
We always say that it's better to fail fast.
It's better to fail fast.
Even if it's bad, you spend a less amount of time building it. Once it comes out, just iterate fast. You always keep iterating, and then in no time you would have what the users desire.
Okay. So let's be much more practical now. Let's say I bring a project to you. You are building a streaming platform for African musicians. Walk me through your process.
So for African musicians, I'm not a musician. That's one part of UX that we probably have to wear many hats. So one thing is you don't only build products, but then you also have to go a step further to understand industries and businesses. So the reason why I said I'm not a musician is because that's where I will start from. I'm not a musician. I would have to go into that world, understand what that business is about. How do they make money? obviously the person coming to me is not just building the software for fun. They want to make money.
Yeah.
So in the process of considering the user, I also have to consider the business and their revenue, how they're going to make money off that product. So I go in these two ways. I try to understand what the user needs are, what the company thinks that they want to provide the user. Because the company might have, realize that people are not organized in maybe producing music or doing this, or wants to do this to help them do this.
Okay.
That idea may not necessarily be the truth, right? It may not necessarily be what the market needs, but they probably observe something or like an anomaly or something that they think they can fix. So what you now do as a designer, or like a product designer, is that you now have to merge these two facets. If I go and research about the music industry, I tell you that, this is what I found, and this is what your idea is. I think that we can tweak it this way to make it work. That's when you start from. It doesn't actually start from building the thing off it. You do all those deep dive research and also offer value to the business and let them understand that these are the people you are doing this for. You can learn from the business people themselves, because they should probably be in the music industry before coming to you to tell you that we want to build something. You learn from them, you learn from the users, you put that together. So in these two cases, how can we make sure that the users' needs are safe? How can we make sure that you are making money? So that's where the products will now begin from. And before we bring down processes, we do all our planning. In this, what we decided on now, and let's plan how long is it going to take, and what branding are we even looking at? How do we position ourselves? How do we do this? How do we do this? Then you bring all of those things together. That's how I would approach it here. And people may have different approaches, but if I am working on something like that with zero ideas and in the that's probably
You started by saying you're not a musician. That also means that you worked on projects across different industries that you were not necessarily part of that space or part of that industry. How do you maintain a good level of curiosity? Because today you might be working on a music streaming platform. Tomorrow you could be working on a fashion brand. The other day you could be working on a non-profit. So you don't get to choose the industries you would want to work, unless you get to a point where you feel you are just focusing on, let's say, non-profits.
Yeah.
But up until then, you double in so many spaces. How do you keep that learning experience or that curiosity going on?
Well, I think for every product person, that's the most exciting part of it.
You rather see it as exciting, not as daunting.
No,
okay.
You rather see it as exciting because it gives you an opportunity to learn about that industry. And you realize that after you're done with that project, wherever you go and something of that sort is being discussed, I understand.
You know something.
I think that for every product person, you should be willing to learn. Okay. I found myself on this project. It was for a geography department of a university. And they were building sort of like an GIS. GIS. So a GIS system. And they wanted to incorporate maps of certain landscapes in like Ghana and things like that. And this was me, like, I only did geography in secondary school. And this GIS that's something about, I don't really, I had to sit down, go through what they had, look at existing like GIS softwares, maps and things like that. That was when I found that Voltec even has something like that. Oh, okay. They have like a GIS system where they have maps of certain areas and things. I was like, Voltec is producing water. How did they end up doing something like this? But at the end of the day, I put myself in a position where I could provide value to them. So that's a hack in a way. I just position myself in such a way that I go, even if I don't know, I'll go and learn. And I'll come and present it to you as if, like, I know the thing. And then that tells me like, very first. You understand what's going on? Yeah, that's exactly what we want.
So you immerse yourself in that particular.
You just have to immerse yourself in that particular phase. Once they give it to you, if you bring me something I don't know about, I won't say no. I'll take it. I'll tell you, give me 2 days, I'll be back. I'll go and learn about it, research, and see how other people are doing it. It's the same. The only thing is, in their use cases, maybe a little different from what other people are providing. Right? So I think the most exciting thing about it is learning in different industries. You can build for industries like alcohol industries, and people can even come to you with like LGBTQ based ideas and things like that. Would you say no? I mean,
I don't know.
Depending on your let me say your morals or like what you want, depending on. But I mean, it's humanity, right? You may not say that because it's alcohol based or because it's Islam or because it's this. You may want to decline the project or things like that. If I think that I will learn from it, and I'll learn why people do certain things, and I'll learn how people live in a certain space or in a certain society, I'll take it.
So it's about the learning for you. Every project comes with its own level of opportunity to understand or get to know something that prior you may not have known. All right. In the earlier conversation, I made mention about being in a space that is heavily male dominated, right? And representation hasn't been, I wouldn't even say it's anywhere close to a balance, right? Did you have any people that you looked up to as a woman making headway in tech?
This representation matters. So when I started my tech journey, all the people I looked up to,
who are you looking up to?
So I mean, in the design space, two people were instrumental in my journey in design. Joseph Kipple. Joseph Kipple was with M Pharma, I think.
Okay.
So he started the first Figma design book company.
Oh,
so him together with James.
I mean, shout out to him. Shout out to him.
Yeah. And then James was co-founder of ADP List.
ADP List.
So, they're basically the ones that sort of like held my hands to. I mean, if I have any issues, I'll go to them. If I don't understand anything, I'll go to them. I remember starting out and it got to a point I was fed up. I was like, yeah, I can move boxes and Figma and things, but then if someone should give me a project right now, I can know what to do. You know, how do I go about it? What steps? I wanted to be on someone's file or like a call from beginning to end and see what their design process was going to be like, right? And so once I had those things, sorted, I think I was quite confident in my design career. And yeah, basically those two people, I think in tech in general, during my startup days, the people I looked up to were not necessarily tech inclined, but they were business people.
How about the international space?
International space. Funny enough, I haven't been someone who, sees people online and then share I think this person, I like doing design. Yeah, I could see what they're doing is good, but I'd rather prefer to have someone who's like closer, that I can easily reach out to, because that person you see on TV, they are not easily accessible. If you need help, who do you go to? So I think those 3 people have been very key in like my journey from 2018 till this point.
Okay. So how are you also being intentional about raising the younger people? Because one thing about being among the early people or being among the pioneers is that you get to have now a seat on the table, right?
Okay.
And once you have that, you're able to help other people who are coming up, who may not have the opportunities or who may not have some of these avenues like that you did, right? How are you going to help the other people as well? That's what I mean.
So talking about community and mentorship. So when I used to be on UX Ghana, so if you've heard of UX Ghana,
yeah, I've heard of UX Ghana.
Designers in Ghana, we just like help people, mentor people, provide design education, job referrals, all of those things, community-based stuff. Basically, we're just managing the community, organizing events, based on design, and also trying to like connect people, provide a platform where people will like connect with each other. Also, I think I volunteer with any business at a point, so I got to experience how mentorship is done through like virtual means. You connect this person with this person like from two different worlds, and then they gel, and even people get like recommended jobs from there.
Okay.
But in my own way, I think that what I struggled with when it comes to mentorship is that I always thought that I had to be way up there before I could mentor somebody. But recent times I realized that it's not really about what you know or how far you've gone in your design journey. Even people 2 years, 1 year, they are mentoring other people behind them. I got the opportunity to have 2 design interns recently where I work, and they were all females. I was happy about it because they were both females,
yeah.
And I was a female, and I got to experience like when I saw them trying to make efforts in their design journey, like the beginning of their careers. It took me back to when I was stage, trying to understand what to do. And sometimes they have a grasp of things, but it's just something tiny that you point out to them when they put.
That's where the experience comes in. Yeah,
that's where the experience comes in. So, like I said, you having someone who's closer, mentoring you, taking you through things is way better than doing things from far away. Having someone who's far away, you can't even reach. You're just like watching videos and things like that. You can learn from that. I'm not disputing it, but I think that the interaction also gives like a certain first-hand experience to that. So with that experience, I think maybe in the future, like I'm open to mentoring more people. They're currently not with, I think they're done with their internship. Yeah, I'm glad that I got the opportunity to mentor people like that and also contribute to their journey.
But do you think how many young people are interested in the UI UX space?
For that, I can't really say, but looking at the number of people on the UX community, I would say yes. In Ghana, yes. So there's this program that UX Ghana started some years ago, which should be almost 2 years now. It's called Campus Circles.
Okay.
So the goal was to get most of the universities across Ghana and then have small community pods, design communities in those universities. And across 11 universities, as of last year, they had about 500 plus members, out of 11 universities. So the zeal from there, I mean, some are way up than, but looking at what those people are doing and even their peers mentoring each other, I'm even getting because like people have passion for the tech industry, design industry in Ghana, and I think that once they can get solid people to take them through, we should be good to go.
Okay. If I take you a bit off design, right? This question is to know, your other interests as well. Which historical figure would you love to have a dinner with? Or anyone in the past that has done something that you think you have a lot of questions or you're excited to be with that person?
Okay, this will take me back to when I said I think having someone closer, I'd prefer having someone closer. It made me emotional about having dinner with my parents. Try to understand what plans they had. And
they had for you?
Yeah, they had for me. And, would they probably be excited with where I am now?
I'm sure they certainly would
be. Yeah. Just to like catch up on a lot of things. I mean.
That's fine. One last question. What has been, the most important lesson that you have picked up over the period of your practice?
So, when I started my first design role, it was with an agency, a design agency in Ghana. I don't know, but one thing the co-founder said that always stuck with me was that if you always feel like you've not reached, or you always feel like you don't know anything, or there's a lot for you in there, then you're definitely on the right path.
No, pick it up again.
So, if in your mind you think that you are not there yet, in terms of what you want to achieve, like in design and everything, and you always feel like there's more that you can do, there's more that you can do, then you're on the right spot.
Okay.
Because if one thing that would bring you back will be complacency. When you think that you are there, like you are, it's like you reached. There's nothing
more to learn here, true?
Yeah, that's when you start to decline. But then when you're always striving to learn more, do new things, and understand new things, that's when you know that you're on the clear path. That goes to talk about imposter syndrome. Always, for about 5 months after I joined the company, I wasn't like, I was struggling here and there. And he said, we will baptize you with fire, like he hits the ground running. It was my first Nairo. I was expecting them to be
to be warm, to be understanding. Yeah.
But no, that's not how you learn. And what they used to call it like a big boys club. So they actually needed to hire more females in food. So everything was like on point. You need to hit the ground running. So yeah, I learned a lot from that side, but that particular thing stuck with me. And even till now, I think you actually recently, you're saying like, oh, NBI, you're bringing one like here and there.
Yeah.
I still feel like I don't see myself that way. I think like I have a lot of things to learn, and sometimes it's just good to, step back from the limelight and like improve upon yourself before you even come out. Coming out on a podcast like this to come and speak where you know nothing, obviously, it will put somebody else who's more learned by you. You clearly see that difference.
I'm not doing but more learned.
Someone who knows their stuff.
You know your stuff.
Well, but in my mind,
I get it. I mean, pretty much many Ghanaians or even many people who know it will be modest about what they do know. I mean, sometimes it is just modesty. Do you have a question for me?
I don't know. What's next for Sculptor? I mean, I see you guys doing big things. I personally told you that I love the rebranding. So I think that there are like a lot more things that could come. Yeah, I'd like to see you guys grow, become like a big agency. And so you're already a big agency, but like expand your wings. Yeah, like
what's next for us? I mean, one thing we rarely use the tag agency. So I would say a team, because agency usually gives the perception that the sort of streamlined, very rigid process. But we usually would say we are also people building for people. So what's next for us? It's a direction that we started this year, that is to go big on impact, right? And by that we mean how can we, through our practice, be improving community, be improving society. Because one of the things you mentioned earlier was that when you're designing for people. And because you're designing for people, what they care about should also be what you care about. What they are interested about should be what you're also interested about. And the problems they are facing should also be what you are facing. Because if I'm designing, let's say, package design for any food product, if people don't have the money to make the purchase, no matter how nice the design is, it would just hit a decline. But if you focus on the people, for instance, the issue of single mothers, right? Or the issue of even people being from homes with a little or low incomes, right? How are you making sure that these people will be in a better place to purchase your product? Even beyond purchasing your product, how are you making sure that through your interaction with them, their lives are going to be better? So that is more of the space that we are pivoting into. It's not just about aesthetics. Nice designs are there, but at the end of the day, they are not solving problems. It's just nice, right? So the next big thing for us would definitely be solving much more problems, whether it's the environmental issues we have, whether it's socioeconomic issues and whatnot. And we will definitely be working on more projects like that. Already we've worked on a couple of projects with you, and I personally like the work processes. I liked the outcome. And even not just me, the entire team and the clients as well. So really look forward to more collaboration. I think collaboration is also one of the things that we're going to big on in the next phase, of Sculptor. So it's been a good interaction with you, Abia, and I hope there will be a part 2. Yeah, we could catch up on other things. So keep doing what you do. You are inspiring many people that you can think of, because we are in an age where tech is on the rise. But for the recent COVID and the global economic crisis, I think the tech spaces it's really a place to be, regardless of where you are, because there is tech in everything. Whether you're in a create, whether you are in content creation, whether you're in sports, there's the tech bit to anything, right? So I wish you all the best, and we'll definitely catch up on another episode. Thanks for showing up.